Hello and welcome to Chapter 10, Lesson 6. Today we're going to be using place value, and models to add fractions. Let's get started. Okay, Denny walked 3/10 of a mile to the post office. Then he walked 5/100ths of a mile to the grocery store. How far did he walk in all? Write the answer as a fraction with a denominator of 100 and as a decimal. Okie dokie, let's do that. So we need to write 3/10 as a fraction with the denominator of 100, which means we're just going to cut these into smaller pieces. And so instead of 3/10, I would have 30/100ths. Notice I just multiply by 10 to go from 3/10 to 30/100ths. Okay, so now that they have common denominators, now I can add them together. 31/100ths plus 5/100ths is going to be 35/100ths. Okay, so if I was going to look at the fraction 35/100ths and I'd say it 35/100ths, I know I can also write it as 35/100ths or 35/100. So 3/10 plus 5/100ths equals 35/100ths or 0 and 35/100ths. The other way that I like to think about it, remember these tenths here, they're 10 sticks, like right here. So if I have 3 of those, and then I have 5 little cubes, like these little guys, the hundredths, then I can notice, oh yeah, I'm going to have 35 out of 100, right? I'm not going to have 8 out of 100 if I just added them without getting common denominators. So I do really like this model as a way for you guys to picture what's going on. Okay, so here we want to find 4/10 plus 22/100ths. Write the sum as a fraction with a denominator of 100. Yeah, because on that last one we could have simplified too, but they want us to write our answer as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So here we go. The decimal models show that 4/10 is equal to 40/100ths. Again, times 10 times 10. Okay, so I'm going to add 40 plus 22 to get 62/100ths. Okay, 62/100ths as a fraction, 62/100ths as words, and 62/100ths as a decimal is just 0 and 62/100ths. Okay, the models show that 4/10 plus 22/100ths are equal to 62/100ths. So, awesome. Let's keep going. Add, write each sum as a fraction with a denominator of 100. Okay, same type of thing. And as a decimal. So you have to have 2 answers here. So, I notice when I'm multiplying things by 10, all I'm doing is adding a 0. Boop, boop. So, I'm going to change my 5/10 to 50/100ths by multiplying both the numerator and denominator by 10. Then I can add 51/100ths, which is the same as saying 0 and 51/100ths. Same for number 2. I need to add a 0 because that's all I'm doing when I'm multiplying by 10. And so then I can add 83/100ths or 0 and 83/100ths. Okay, in example 2, why was 4/10 written as 40/100ths? Because we need to have a common denominator. This must be like the one on the previous slide. Because we need to have a common denominator in order to add fractions. And so to get that common denominator, then we can just multiply by 10, then they're both 100. We can add them, add the numerators, and keep the denominator the same. So that is why we need to write it that way. Okie dokie. Add, write some as, okay, same directions. So for number 1, we need to multiply them both by 10. There we go. My pen wasn't wanting to work there. 20 plus 33 is going to get me to 53. That's not 60, it's 53. Hundredths. or 0 and 53 hundredths. Okay, add a 0, add a 0. And 60 plus 25 is 85 hundredths, or 0 and 85 hundredths. Okay, multiply by 10, multiply by 10. 40 plus 17 is 57 hundredths, or 0 and 57 hundredths. Okay, again here I need to get common denominators. So what am I doing when I'm adding the 0? I'm hoping I'm driving this point home. I'm multiplying by 10. I can't just like add random zeros, but instead of taking 2/10 and multiplying by 10 equals 20 over 100. Instead of doing all of those steps, and because we practice this a lot already, I'm just trying to cut or simplify it a little bit and say, look, when we're multiplying something by 0, we're just adding a 0, right? Like 5 times 10, 50. 50 times 10, 500. 500 times 10, 5,000. 5,000 times 10, 50,000. Okay, every time we multiply by 10, we're just adding another 0. Really, what we're doing is we're moving that decimal point. But we're not quite there yet. We'll get there next year. But that's really what we're doing is we're moving the decimal point when we're multiplying by 10, and then when we're dividing by 10, we're moving that decimal point the other way. But that's neither here nor there. I just want you to make sure, that you know I'm not just adding random zeros. That what I'm doing is I'm multiplying things by 10. Anyways, 20 plus 22 is 42 hundredths, or 0 and 42 hundredths. Okay, got a couple more problems here. Use number sense, write each answer as a fraction. Okay, an insect's body is 1/10 inch long. I could also write that as 0 and 1/10. The insect's head is 3/100ths of an inch long. So that'd be written as 0 and 3/100ths. Is the combined length of the insect's body and head longer or shorter than 4/10 of an inch? Explain. Okay, so first I'm going to add 1/10 and 3/100ths together. So I need to get common denominators, so I'm going to multiply both by 10. So I'm adding 10 hundredths plus 3/100ths, okay, which is going to get me to 13 hundredths. And now what they want us to do is say, is that shorter or longer than 4/10 of an inch? So in order to compare fractions, we need to get a common denominator so that we are comparing the same size, okay? Right now I'm comparing the sticks on our hundreds, on our model, right? We've had the sticks mean tenths and the tiny squares mean hundredths. Right now I'm comparing these two. I'm saying I have 4 of those, or I have 13 of the little ones, which hopefully you could be comparing it already, but we need to get common denominators. So I'm looking at 40 hundredths is what they want to know. Is 13 hundredths bigger or smaller than 40 hundredths? It's shorter. Okay, and my explanation for here can be just that. 13 hundredths is less than 40 hundredths, right? And so we know that it's shorter than 4/10 of an inch. Okay, let's go to the next one. McKenna rode her bike 6/10 of a mile in the morning, 1/10 of a mile in the afternoon, and 23 hundredths of a mile in the evening. How far did she ride her bike in all? Okay, so let's get that common denominator of 100. Okay, if we've got 100, then we've got to make them all hundreds. If they were all tens, we'd do tens, right? Because then we could add those tens together, but we can't. So I'm going to do 60 hundredths plus 23 hundredths plus 10 hundredths. Okay, so I'd get 60, 70, 83, 93 hundredths of a mile is how far she rode her bike. Okay, let's go to the next one. Test practice. Which addition expression describes the model at the right? Okay, so let's just do it without looking at the answers first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7/10. And here I have 10 1800ths. 7/10 plus 1800ths. Right there, number B, is what this is showing to us. 7 out of 10 and 18 out of 100 total. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any trouble on your homework. Bye.